Good morning and welcome to the change of office and the retirement ceremony in honor of Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, Michael D. Stevens. Please rise for the presentation of colors. Guests, please be seated. Guests, please rise for the arrival of the official party. Guests, please be seated. Guests, please rise to the national anthem and remain standing for the pass review and the invocation. Admiral Margaret Kibben, Chief of Chaplains of the Navy, will now offer the invocation.
Would you pray with me? Gracious and almighty God, the one who is greater even than the pomp and flourish of this momentous occasion, we humbly ask that your grace would descend upon us and that your Spirit would reside with us. We ask that you would allow this ceremony to reflect your blessing on the exemplary tenure of 13th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, MCPON Michael D. Stevens. Truly, you have allowed him to make his indelible mark on the character of Navy and have given him divine wisdom, which he has carefully dispatched, influencing the well-being of our sailors and their families, significantly impacting the Navy's chief's mess, and capably and wisely advising the most senior leaders of our Navy. Having run this race, may he have a sense of not just accomplishment for all that you have entrusted to him, but of fulfillment for having glorified you through his service to this country. May he trust in your grace as he sets his sights on the next leg of his journey, empowered by the moments you have encouraged him, interceded for him, protected him, provided for, and guided him. And we are that much more blessed by the MCPON loving and equally devoted spouse and son, Teresa and Shane, for their generous, even sacrificial service to you, to our Navy, and to this country. We pray your benediction. Now we commend this moment to you. Amidst the accolades and praises, tears and words of encouragement, we ask that you would speak your own loud and powerful voice with your well done, good and faithful servants. It is in the strength of your name we pray. Amen.
Guests, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Rear Admiral Charles Rock, 90th Commandant, Naval District, Washington.
Good morning and welcome to this absolutely perfect day. As Naval District Washington's 90th Commandant, I'm honored to host and pleased that you could join us to celebrate MCPON Stevens' outstanding career and welcome Master Chief Giordano as our new Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. The Washington Navy Yard is our Navy's oldest shore installation and steeped in history. The yard was once the Navy's largest shipbuilding and shipfitting facility. The sloop of war USS Wasp was the first ship built here at the Navy Yard in 1806 and was followed by 22 other vessels constructed here, ranging from 70-foot gunboats to a 246-foot steam frigate, Minnesota. Old Ironsides, the USS Constitution, came to the yard in 1812 to refit and prepare for combat action. Eventually, the Navy Yard evolved from a shipbuilding center to an ordnance plant, a center for research development, and finally to the ceremonial and administrative center you see today. If you take some time to look around today, you will see numerous artifacts from the shipbuilding and ordnance days. These artifacts and the history they represent tell our Navy story and keep important traditions alive, many of which are reflected in the ceremony you are witnessing this morning. With that, distinguished leaders and guests, and many other friends and families here today, thank you for joining us. Now please welcome to the podium the 31st Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral John Richardson.
Well, thank you very much for that perfect introduction. And you got to look around and think, whoa, this is a big deal. And so what are the signs of a big deal? You know, how do you know you're in the presence of a big deal? Well, what better indicator than we need than our honor guard and our band, and really the precision and precise execution of that military ceremony that we just saw. The music, the drill, the marching, the colors, all of that gives us comfort that in this time where so much ambiguity is swirling around us, that we have these rock-solid traditions that are executed just as they were when this Navy Yard first got underway in 1799, and that signifies a big deal. If that wasn't enough, think about the company that we're in today. The Secretary of the Navy, sir, thank you for joining us today. In our business, when Secretary of the Navy's around, by definition, big deal. Right? Sir, thank you for joining us today. And the Secretary is also joined by Undersecretary of the Navy, ma'am, great to see you here today, by former Chief of Naval Operations, my predecessor, CNO Greener, great to see you and Darlene today. Admirals, the entire flag wardroom, past and present here. That's a big deal. That's an indicator it's a big deal. We've got the former Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy here. I think every one of them is here who's still with us to witness this turnover, the importance of this event, and that also signifies big deal. And so we are here. And of course there's the weather, right? Which when it gets this good, something's going right. You're clean living, right? When your turnover happens in this great weather. And so, welcome to all of you. I'm glad to be here, and it is perfectly appropriate that we all get here in our dress uniforms, here in the ceremonial park of the Washington Navy Yard, to celebrate this transfer of authority, transfer of responsibility, the transfer of this very, very important position. And while I can go on and on about the guests that are here this morning, I think we all agree that there's nobody here that's more important than families of Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy Mike Stevens. So Teresa, Shane, welcome to all of you. Thanks so much for being here. And also the family of Master Chief Giordano, Oka, and the girls. Great to see you coming here. So let's give all of our families a round of applause here. So it's a big deal, right? QED, we're all agreed that that's the truth. And I think the thing that brings us here, the thing that makes it a big deal, is that we're here to celebrate just the amazing career of a tremendously successful person, including 14 years as a Master Chief Petty Officer. And I was sort of working on this speech last night, putting the polishing touches on it, and you just reach a point where you just have to stop, right? There's just so much. Where are you going to cut it off? But I'd like to take some time to discuss with you two really distinct aspects of MCPON Stevens and his contribution to the Navy. Those contributions, in fact, every action that MCPON Stevens made was always made by, with, and for our sailors. In everything he did, MCPON Stevens always had the Navy's interests at heart and kept you front and center in every decision. Now, the first aspect of this service I'd like to talk about is that during his tenure, MCPON Stevens racked up an amazing list of accomplishments that have literally, without any sense of doubt, shaped the Navy. And he did so in what I would call a new world of transparency, in the social media world. Sometimes that world brings great praise, but often it brings withering and blistering commentary and criticism. And I would say that MCPON Stevens' accomplishments really can be grouped in four major areas. One, he dedicated himself to the continued education of the senior enlisted leadership, particularly through the Senior Enlisted Academy. Two, he took on as his personal vision, his personal jihad almost, that he was going to bring our sailors into the 21st century and arm them with the latest tools. He was devoted to the continued professionalization of the Chief Petty Officer's Mess, and in everything he did, he always had an eye out for those things that could help our sailors live a life that makes sense and is filled with integrity. Now, before I get started about the details of some of these accomplishments, I have to say, Mr. Chief Giordano, I'm not sure this came up during turnover, but this office of the MCPON, it comes with no actual authorities, no actual people, and no money. All right? Did you guys discuss that? Was that part of the turnover? I don't think I got it. Yeah, okay. Well, get used to it. So, to put that in context, what that means is that MCPON Stevens' accomplishments are even that much more impressive because it was done not by virtue of positional authority, but really through inspirational authority, bringing people together to support his vision because it was always clear-minded, always well-developed, and thoughtfully researched. But I think we'd all agree that the most important thing that brought us together to support MCPON Stevens was that we just respect who he is, and we respect what he represents. I know that that's true because I'm one of those people that has that type of respect. And that, I think, is the pinnacle of leadership. Now, like all effective leaders, MCPON Stevens was very choosy about where he got involved. If you think about involvement with the Senior Enlisted Academy, the Senior Enlisted Academy provides professional military education to all of our most seasoned chiefs. We're going to go on and take up the most influential positions around our Navy. How pivotal is that? It's a theme of MCPON Stevens' tenure. Time at Senior Enlisted Academy further prepares our senior enlisted leadership to teach our core values and helps us align our actions in the fleet with those values. Senior Enlisted Academy under MCPON Stevens' tenure has expanded both in volume and quality by virtue of his personal involvement. This year, the Academy will graduate 1,200 students, and just this year, attendance and graduating from the Senior Enlisted Academy became mandatory for promotion to Master Chief Petty Officer. After all, as MCPON Stevens will tell you, if it's worth doing right, and it's worth doing with high standards. I talked about MCPON Stevens' drive to equip our sailors with the very latest, and that goes all the way to how they learn from the very first day they enter the Navy. And so at boot camp, MCPON Stevens personally dragged this program into fruition at great personal energy and again with almost no authority and no money to initiate the E-Sailor program. Now the E-Sailor is a pilot program becoming a program of record to put the latest learning technology, specifically tablets, in the hands of our brand new sailors. And this eventually will change the way that we do business. It updates the way that every one of our sailors will learn and allows us to keep up the pace of change, up with the speed of communication, how we will collaborate, and how we will continue to train our people. And he has taken this initiative and used it as a fulcrum to expand our minds throughout the Navy to appreciate the very latest methods for teaching not only how to be our core competencies, but also our core values. Again, what more influential place can you choose to get involved than that place through which every one of our sailors passes? Finally, and perhaps most widely known and influential, is the shift to CPO 365. MCPON Stevens focused on his goal of professionalism of CPO mess almost from the first days of his term. It was rough going in the beginning, made all the more rough by virtue of the fact that, as I said, MCPON Stevens did this in the glaring spotlight of social media. Everything is out in the open, with so many people ready and willing to weigh in. And we've all seen how that works, how the critics, free from any sense of accountability or responsibility, will pile on, sometimes with incredible vitriol. But MCPON Stevens knew that some practices, even when out of step with what is clearly right, can be a seemingly immovable object. And so he braced himself for the task. He's guided by his deep sense of integrity, and with the help of his mess, he persevered. He ensured that our actions got back in line with our standards, with our core values. And many of you may not know this, but this task was made all the more difficult because as he was fighting through this amazingly complicated program when he first came in office 4 years ago, this was also when he was personally fighting through a diagnosis of cancer. And he fought through this while carrying the tremendous cancer, while carrying the tremendous burdens of the office of the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. And he did this without once mentioning the struggle he was facing. He literally conducted all hands calls with chemotherapy bag in his pocket. And he made it all work. And now MCPON Stevens is cancer-free, and our Chief's Petty Officer mess is so much stronger. Now we could go on and on. Uniform modifications, tattoo policy, many other initiatives that seem small, but in execution are actually big. And that took amazing vision, initiative, and courage. You know, MCPON and I spent a lot of time together, a lot of that time in front of thousands of sailors. And we came to treasure those times when, you know, afterwards we would do the formal call, and we'd really go right to questions and answers. You know, I've become amazed at how fast the United States sailor can fall asleep. And so we get quickly through our opening remarks and get the team involved, the whole crowd. And then at the end, we linger around. They just want to come around and continue the conversation. And MCPON and I began to treasure those times when a sailor would come up unsolicited and say, you know, MCPON, that thing you just did, that makes a lot of sense. That makes our lives a lot more sensible. Common sense isn't that common, MCPON Stevens, as the saying goes, but you have it by the ton. And when I think of what you've done, the accomplishments that you've made, we can all only sort of channel President Theodore Roosevelt, who would say, you have been the man in the arena. Your face has been marred by sweat and blood, and you have been surrounded by critics who know nothing of what it means to be accountable. And you have felt the high triumph of achievement. The Navy and the nation are better, and we are grateful for your effort. Now, I could end the speech right here, and it would describe a life of service that everybody in this audience and myself could only aspire to accomplish. But I mentioned that there were two aspects of MCPON Stevens that I wanted to talk about. And so while I think we can all agree, it's clear he's been an amazing leader to the Navy. What you may also only have a vague sense of is that while he did that, he was also the personal advisor for two chiefs of naval operation, Admiral Greenert and myself. And speaking for myself, I will tell you that he was absolutely essential for me getting my sea legs as I came into the office of C&O, and that relationship has grown stronger every day. Now, I think we're all familiar that, you know, when a commanding officer of a ship and the command master chief of that command really click, everything seems to fall into place. It all starts to happen exactly as it's supposed to. Standards of performance and performance gets higher, And you know, it all seems like we're working, it's easier. It becomes effortless almost to achieve and maintain high standards. That's the power of that relationship. Most of us only achieve that a few times in our career. In my career, just a couple times has it really clicked. And as I came into the office of C&O, I got to tell you, I was looking, I was unsure. How would it go? Who is this guy, MCPON Stevens? And can that type of special relationship be scaled up from sort of an 05 ship level command up to the scale of the entire Navy? And I will tell you that the answer is absolutely yes. And I thought, you know, how am I going to try and describe this to an audience? And I'm going to go back into my own personal history a bit. You know, when I was going to school, I spent more than 5 years of my life in and around cruise shells, rowing. And, you know, when you spend thousands of years rowing, thousands of hours, seem like thousands of years sometimes, thousands of hours pulling ahead and staring at an oar and staring at the back of the head of the person in front of you, working together with a bunch of other guys in a very small boat, it can't help but have an impact on your psyche, all right? And what that experience taught me was about teamwork, the art of pulling together towards a single common goal. When you're rowing in that shell, the team effort is all that matters. The individual is meaningless. Only team performance counts. And the ultimate attainment of that pure teamwork is something that in crew we call the swing. And perhaps the best description of what the swing is comes from a terrific book called Boys in the Boat. And I would recommend that every American read this book. And it talks about the swing in these terms. There is a thing that sometimes happens in rowing that is hard to achieve and hard to define. Many crews, even winning crews, never really find it. Others find it but can't sustain it. It's called swing. It only happens when all oarsmen are rowing in such perfect unison that no single action by anyone is out of sync with those of all the others. And only then will the boat continue to run unchecked, fluidly and gracefully between the pulls of the oars. Rowing then becomes a kind of perfect language, poetry. That's what good swing feels like. Folks, I'm here to tell you, MCPON Stevens and I had that swing. We knew just what the other was thinking this last year, and we pulled together into the most cohesive type of team. In command, there's not many people that you can really kind of share with and bare your soul, but I could share with my MCPON, my colleague, and my friend. And so in those two areas, leadership of the Navy and partnership at the most personal level, MCPON Stevens, you crushed it. Now, he won't ever tell you that. You'll never hear those words out of him. He's a quiet and humble man, a man of faith, a man of tremendous authenticity. And he'll be the first to tell you that he did it all with no people, no money, no authority. Just the power of influence. But with that influence, Mike Stevens made an enormous impact on our Navy, on our sailors, on our nation, and he made an enormous impact on me. Mike, I'd like to ask you to come on up here and join me at the podium so that we can formally recognize your time as MCPON.
Guests, please rise. Attention to award. The President of the United States takes pleasure in presenting the Distinguished Service Medal to Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy Michael D. Stevens, United States Navy, for service as set forth in the following citation. For exceptional meritorious service to the government of the United States and her duty of great responsibility while serving as the 13th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy from September 2012 to September 2016. MCPON Stevens exhibited inspirational leadership, astute critical logic, and tireless enthusiasm advancing interests of all Navy total force stakeholders. His credibility helped develop policies central to the enduring success of the Navy enterprise. As Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy to two Chiefs of Naval Operations, his comprehension of nearly every issue affecting the fleet enabled him to navigate complex issues, influencing decisional outcomes with service-wide implications. During congressional testimony, he represented quality of life priorities, ensuring adequate funding for all force empowerment programs. He was directly involved in the E-Sailor Initiative in providing 21st century sailor quicker access to current information and promoting the Chief of Naval Operations strategic guidance, Navy Corps values, and lines of effort. As advisor to the Senior Enlisted Academy and Command Master Chief PF of the Boat Course, he ensured future enlisted leaders possessed the training, education, and resources needed to provide guidance to commanding officers. MCPON Stevens' superior performance of his duties highlights the culmination of 33 years of honorable, dedicated service. By his superior leadership, wise judgment, and deep devotion to duty, MCPON Stevens reflected great credit upon himself and upheld the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. For the President, Ray Mabus, Secretary of the Navy. Yes, please be seated.
Well, as we sit down, all of us who do this business know that we never do it alone. And throughout all of what we just said, what I just talked about MCPON Stevens' amazing career, Teresa has been at his side. She's been incredibly gracious. She's been an all-in teammate to Mike, and she is a Navy leader. In fact, she's the daughter of a Navy chief. She is a Navy spouse, and beyond that, she is my personal ombudsman at large. And I rely on Teresa to move throughout the Navy and make sure that our families are doing well, that they're being well taken care of, and that we're taking good care of that part of our Navy team. Her work with the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, the Fisher House, the Navy League, the USO, and so many other organizations have made her just as influential as Mike. And Teresa, you too will be sorely, sorely missed. And your contributions, our work together, your work for me, for the Navy, has been instrumental in improving the lives of so many of our sailors and their families. And I'd like to ask you, Teresa, to come on up and join me for a little bit of a formal recognition of your contribution.
The Secretary of the Navy takes pleasure in presenting the Distinguished Public Service Award to Mrs. Teresa M. Stevens for services set forth in the following citation. For outstanding meritorious achievement as the United States Navy's Ombudsman at Large from September 2012 to September 2016. Mrs. Stevens' extraordinary spirit, tireless leadership, and selfless dedication to the Navy family have made a significant positive impact throughout the entire United States Navy. As an advocate for Navy families and the Navy Ombudsman Program, she embraced her role and reached out across the globe to more than 300,000 Navy sailors and their family members. With contagious enthusiasm and indefatigable devotion, she significantly improved the quality of life for thousands by providing valuable feedback to the Chief of Naval Operations, the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, and other senior Navy leaders in the tone of the force and issues of concern to Navy families. Additionally, Ms. Stevens was the catalyst behind a registry of ombudsman and other critical improvements, policies, and procedures. By her zeal and efforts, significantly contributed to institutionalizing a legacy of support to Navy families through the interconnected web of trained and registered ombudsmen dedicated to the ideal of informed families armed with knowledge of Navy policies and available Navy family support. Mrs. Stevens' outstanding discharge of her duties as Chief of Naval Operations Ombudsman at Large highlights the culmination of 18 years of honorable and dedicated public service to the United States Navy and the United States of America. By her superior leadership, wise judgment, and deep devotion to duty, Mrs. Teresa Stevens reflected great credit upon herself and upheld the highest traditions of the United States Navy. Signed, Ray Mabus, Secretary of the Navy. Please be seated.
So Mike and Teresa, I know you will enjoy Pittsburgh, and I heard that Bibu will also enjoy Pittsburgh, which is absolutely critical. I hope there'll be a lot less traveling for you, Mike and Teresa. And I know in some sort of conspiracy that only the Master Chiefs can pull off, Laura and Jeff Garrison. Jeff, where are you? Yeah, there you are, yeah. They are also moving to Pittsburgh. And so, as you all know, everywhere MCPON Stevens and Teresa were, there was Jeff right with them, and Laura, and they're going to be living even closer in retirement than they do active duty, which, well done, well played. MCPON, I also noticed that you've really started growing out your hair in preparation for this. Did anybody else notice that? Yeah. So it's, you know, to be honest, lately it's been a lot less about that personal support and a lot more about the product, you know. So I know that'll, you know, feeling the wind going through that during the Harley rides and all of that. We just can only pray that the road rises up to meet you. Master Chief Giordano, you've got to feel at this moment like you've just traveled through some kind of intergalactic wormhole. You are in a whole new dimension. And the reason it feels like that is because it's true. But you are perfect for this job. You and Elka. You're coming to us from an extremely busy operational assignment with an impeccable reputation for leadership. And I'd like to just tell you that you've got 100% of my confidence, and just take some time in this new job to absorb what this means. Remain true to yourself. You are also a man of deep conviction, a man of humility, and a man of faith. And I can think of nobody better to lead as MCPON going forward. And so welcome aboard to both you and Elka. Mike and Teresa, you have lived lives of service. I want to thank you one last time for your extraordinary 33 years. Dana and I could not be more grateful, and we wish you fair winds and following seas. And to everybody here, I just have one last favor to ask before I leave the podium. You know, tonight at the end of this beautiful day, as we head into a long weekend, at some point we're all going to call it a day. And I'd ask that as you put your head down, please take a moment to say a prayer for the Stevens and the Giordanos. They've taken on so much, and they need our support. And say another quick prayer for all the sailors, soldiers, airmen, and Marines deployed around the world. They have taken on the burden of protecting our freedom each and every day. God bless all of you. God bless our families, the sailors of the United States Navy, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, MCPON Stevens.
Okay, Admiral Harvey, I'm going to try. He said if I cried, he was going to get up and leave. And if you know Admiral Harvey, he would get up and leave. And I want you to enjoy the rest of the event, sir. Can you believe this weather? I mean, it was just smoking hot all month long. We wake up this morning, and it's like at high or low 70s, high 60s. It's unbelievable. So well done, chaps. Well done, right? Well, good morning to everyone. Good morning. And thank you for allowing Teresa and I to share this very special day with you. We'd first like to thank everyone that was involved in making this event possible, and a special thanks to our host, the Commandant of Naval District Washington, Rear Admiral Charles Rock. Sir, thank you. Our Chief of Chaplains, Rear Admiral Margaret Kibben, and our Master of Ceremonies, Chief Courtney Williams, a.k.a. The Voice. Also to our ceremonial guard for their wonderful performance. Shipmates, we are absolutely honored by your presence. Let's give our ceremonial guard a round of applause. For Teresa and I, today is really all about saying thank you. Each and every one of you are special to us, and words could simply never express how honored we are that you took the time to be here with us today. It is my privilege to introduce to you a few of our distinguished guests, and hopefully you'll have the opportunity to speak with them after the ceremony is over. You know, I got some notes here and I'm out of whack because Congressman Murphy was going to sit next to the secretary, but he's not here, but I know he's busy. So I would like to thank the congressman from the 18th District of Pennsylvania, going to be my congressman, for recognizing this ceremony, and I'm sure that he'd be here if he wasn't detained elsewhere. I hope that detainment's a good thing though, right? We do have with us the second longest serving Secretary of the Navy, and might I add, a hardcore Ole Miss fan, the Honorable Ray Mabus. Thank you, sir, for being here with us. Mr. Secretary, do you remember, I know you follow these games, but you remember in 2004 when Ole Miss beat Oklahoma State for the Cotton Bowl. Eli Manning was the MVP of that game, 2 touchdowns, over 300 yards. Do you remember that, sir? Well, what I have with me here today is not a football that was in that game, but it is a football, and I signed it. Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. Sorry for just a moment, I got your hopes up. To our 31st Chief of Naval Operations and my good friend, Admiral John Richardson and his wife, Dana. We recently made the CNO an honorary Master Chief, and I started thinking he's going to retire one day, I believe, and I can't have him walking around Walmart without the traditional Master Chief Petty Officer ball cap. So I've signed a ball cap for you, CNO, and this is for your days in Walmart. Okay. To our 30th Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral John Greenert, almost got Richardson, Admiral John Greenert and his wife, Darlene. Thank you both for being here today. The Undersecretary of the Navy, the Honorable Dean Davison, ma'am, thank you for being here. The Vice Chief of all Naval Operations, Admiral Bill Moran and his wife, Patricia. Thank you both for being here today. The Commander, United States Cyber Command, this is a long one. Director, National Security Agency, and Chief of Central Security Services, Admiral Mike Rogers. Our good friends, retired Fleet Commander John Harvey and his wonderful wife, Mary Ellen. Now listen, Admiral Harvey, this might be a surprise to you because you didn't know this, but if you go into the fore deck 6 corridor towards the end, there's a painting of you. Big painting, like a CNO portrait painting, and on the bottom it says, the legend, right? Now, to prove my point, I went down to the gift shop and I got a replica. See? John Harvey, the legend, right? And I signed that for you, Admiral Harvey. I said today is mostly about thank you, so if it seems long, it's okay, because it's about 80% of my speech. If the wind would quit blowing my speech around here. Retired Commander, Allied Joint Forces Command, Naples, Europe, Africa, Admiral Mark Ferguson and his lovely wife, Lorraine. Thank you both for being here today, sir. Okay, now there's the man who's done absolutely nothing with his life. I mean absolutely nothing. But I'll call him out anyway. Singer, songwriter, guitar player, state legislator, pilot, Harvard lawyer, Senior Executive, and the former Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, Mr. Juan Garcia. Sir, thank you for traveling from Seattle to here. Now, for the man who's done, like absolutely everything, you have to have a knife that does everything. So I got you a Swiss Army knife, right? I'm going to give it to you, sir, but I got to warn you, you did fly here, correct? Don't put it in your carry-on, because what happens to you with TSA in that little room is not my responsibility. Okay? All right. I don't know how his wife puts up with the boredom. It is also my privilege today to recognize one of the most humble warriors I've ever had the opportunity to meet. Medal of Honor recipient, Senior Chief Special Warfare Operator, SEAL Edward C. Byers, and his wife Madison, and their lovely daughter Hannah. Thank you all for joining us here today. Okay, you probably noticed if you were at the reception, this man, he wears one heck of a mean bow tie. MIT professor and author Dr. Steve Spear and his, sorry Miriam couldn't make it. I had her in a speech just in case. Sir, thank you for your wisdom and your support of our Navy and the time that you've given us. I've really, truly enjoyed getting to know you and hope that our friendship will continue in the future. Teresa couldn't have you wearing that bow tie on a day like this, sir, so we got you one, red, white, and blue, right? Okay. Okay. In case all of you wanted a gift, you're not going to get one. That was it. That was the last one. With us today, we have the Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Sergeant Major John Troxell and his wife, Sandra. Thank you both for being here. I wasn't anticipating claps between everyone, so the speech might go for about 2 hours, right? No. Feel free to clap if you want, but you can also hold it until the end. Sergeant Major and my neighbor, when Mike Barrett left as a Sergeant Major, the beer can stopped flowing across my yard, right? I'd wake up in the morning, there'd be empties in my yard. Ron's a wholesome man, unlike Sergeant Major Barrett, right? But Ron Green and his wife, Andre, are both here with us today. Thank you both, and thank you for your support and everything you've done for Teresa and I. We really appreciate it. And I'm going to miss seeing you in the morning on that bicycle in the garage, Ron. I'd come back from a run, and I would cool down, and I'd look over. It'd be 5:30 in the morning, and Ron would be in there pedaling on his bicycle. Right? Just trying to stay young, right? Chief Master Sergeant of the entire Air Force, Chief Master Sergeant Jim Cody. Thank you for being here, my friend. Representing the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard is Steve Cantrell's wife, Janet. Janet, thank you for being here with us today. I know Steve is on travel. Okay, our former Master Chief Petty Officers of the Navy that are here with us today. Starting with the old, getting to the young, and young isn't that young, right? But number 7, Dwayne Bushy. Raise your hand, Dwayne. Dwayne Bushy. Number 8, John Hagan. Number 9, Jim Hurt. And the man that handed me the pack worth 1,000 pounds, number 12, Rick West. Teresa and I know why you were laughing when you and Bobby were driving away. Gentlemen, thank you for your friendship. And thank you for your counsel and for your advice. Even when I didn't want to hear it, I needed it, and I'm grateful for it. Thank you very much. With us today, at 95 years young, is the spouse of our First Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, Miss Ima Black. Ima, thank you for being here with us today. So, Greenard, I don't know if you knew this or not, but after I was selected, we had a little thing at the Navy Memorial, and Ima was there, and she said, "Come here, young man. Sit here. looked me in the eyes. She looked at me for like an hour, and she goes, "Yep, you're the right guy. You'll be okay." I felt blessed at that point. Thank you, Ima. As a senior enlisted leader, I've had the opportunity to work for some outstanding commanding officers. Although, I must admit, some of you made me lose a little sleep from time to time, you all provided me with wonderful leadership opportunities. And I consider each of you as friends. Gentlemen, I can only hope that I serve you well and that I met your expectations. Thank you for being here today. Captain Retired Mike Cashman, the Cash Man. Thank you for allowing me to be a keynote speaker about a year and a half ago at your retirement ceremony. And thank you for your steadfast friendship. Teresa and I wish you and Katie all the best. There you are, Mike. Thank you for being here. With us today is my, not yet, but my soon-to-be new boss and former naval officer, Mr. Chris Hale, and his wife, Christy. Also with Chris today is Mr. Rich McCormick, Dan Nichols, Joanne O'Connor, Scott Shaw, Meme Loam, Sean McAllister, Jeff Bucklew, and Bill Offit. Thank you all for making the drive from Pittsburgh and for what you do every day to support our veterans. I am so excited to be joining your ranks and look forward to serving with you soon. Thank you, Chris. Mrs. Pam Swan, thank you for joining us today. The support you provide our veterans is nothing short of amazing. Okay, so that if you smell just a hint of sea salt and black coffee in the air, don't worry. It's coming from the nearly 100 Master Chiefs here today from my MCPON's leadership mess. And many of the members from our Chief Petty Officer mess who are in attendance today. I'm going to ask that all current, retired, and honorary Chief Petty Officers please stand and be recognized. That'd be you too, CNO. You know your sphere of influence is working with the Secretary of the Navy stands up as an honorary chief, right? Thank you, sir. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your loyalty and your support. All of you are quiet, humble, servant leaders. And I believe that it's because of your efforts that our Navy has never been better and never more ready than it is today. Thank you for your friendship. And most importantly, thank you for your leadership. I'd like to quickly call out the Fleet Master Chiefs that have served with me during my time as the MCPON. These are my closest advisors and counselors. Fleet Master Chief Retired Scott Benning, John Minyard, Brad LeVault, Joanne Ortloff, Marco Ramirez, Chuck Clark, Mark Rudes, and Terry Mullador. Our current serving Fleet Master Chiefs, Fleet Master Chief April Beldo, Suze Whitman, Paul Kingsbury, Chris Addington, Raymond Kemp, and of course, our newly selected MCPON, Steve Giordano. It's tough right here, so you know. I'd also like to recognize a couple of people that have joined us today. Master Chief Petty Officer Retired Bill White from Hampton Roads, and Master Chief Petty Officer Retired Ken Mackey from San Diego. When I say that these are two of the finest leaders I've ever served with, it doesn't do justice. They've been simply amazing and mentors to me. Thank you both for being here. With us today is my sister-in-law, Lily Gotro, Teresa's best friend. Lily, you're a kind and caring person, and you mean the world to us. Thank you for traveling from Pensacola to be here with us today. Our friends and neighbors from Pensacola, Police Officer Sergeant Mark Holmes and his wife Molly, and with them is Molly's brother and DEA Special Agent, Mr. Guy Baker. Thank you for making the trip and for keeping me safe. We appreciate you. Thank you. A special thanks to my son and Navy veteran, Shane. Son, thank you for being here today. You're a fine young man, and I'm proud of all that you've accomplished. Keep up the great work, son. The best is yet to come. Okay. Although he was unable to be with us today, I'd like to thank my father, Cheryl Stevens. To say he taught me the meaning of hard, honest work would be an understatement. When I was a kid, my dad used to say, Mike, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, so shut up and get going. Mind you, that was long before Billy Ocean released his hit song in 1985, The Going Gets Tough. And frankly, I'm surprised that my old man hasn't tried to squeeze some royalties out of Billy. I'd like to thank my mother and father-in-law, Frenchie and Toshi Gocho, for their unbelievable and unconditional love and support. They've always been there for Teresa and I. Mom and Dad, I know you can't be here. Hopefully you're watching us on this live stream. I want you to know that I love you deeply. Gio, to your wife Elka and two amazing daughters. Teresa and I are so excited for all of you, and we wish you the very best in your MCPON adventures. We know you and your family will serve us well. And listen, I hope you brought your seat belts, your shoulder harnesses, and they're on tight, because you are in for one heck of a ride. And speaking of rides, I've got a parking pass in my car to spot 85 at the mall parking, and that will be your pass for 4 years for this ride, okay? Admiral Greener, thank you for affording me the opportunity to serve as your MCPON. I will forever be grateful for the trust that you placed in me and for giving me a seat at the table in all matters that affected our sailors and their families. It really was an honor to assist you in leading our Navy for the 3 years that you and I served together. Teresa and I thank you and Darlene for your many years of service. We certainly hope that retired life is treating you well. And sir, since we're moving to Pittsburgh, I guess I need to learn the Steelers starting lineup. And I thought maybe you and I get together for a cup of coffee and start working on that, okay? To all the Deputy Chiefs of Naval Operations and Principal Advisors to our Chief of Naval Operations, I cannot thank you enough for your support and your friendship. Behind the scenes, it was the relationships that were formed with each of you that helped the MCPON's office accomplish nearly everything we did over the past 4 years. And for this, I will forever be grateful. I am confident, I am hopeful that our relationships will continue. Would you do me a favor and please stand and be recognized? If you don't know if you're a principal advisor, just stand. Thank you very much. A little hesitant there. I enjoyed the opportunity to build an amazing and special friendship and personal working relationship with our former Chief of Naval Personnel and now our current Vice Chief of Naval Operations, and might I add, professional skydiver, Admiral Bill Moran. Admiral, you are a special kind of leader and one of the finest officers that I've ever had the opportunity to serve with. Thank you for allowing me to be your partner in the many initiatives that we worked on together. Thank you, sir. To our current Chief of Naval Personnel, Admiral Burke, sir, you are off to a great start, and no doubt you will do a wonderful job. Thank you for the short time we worked together. Thank you for your leadership and your support. I would now like to thank my staff, past and present, for all their tremendous support and for putting up with all my sea stories during our scheduling meetings. They really are the fuel and the engine that keeps the MCPON's office running. Simply put, without them, nothing gets done. And what is truly amazing is that they are just indicative of the sailors that we have serving in our Navy today. To my good friend and Executive Assistant Jeff Garrison, Jeff always kept me in line and on time. We made more than one trip around the world, my friend. Together we visited tens of thousands of sailors and their families. You've been a trusted advisor and a voice of truth. Jeff, thank you for everything. And if you don't know Jeff, that's about as much praise as he can handle at one time. Oh, and by the way, feel free to give Jeff a hug after the ceremonial, because that man loves some hugs. Okay. To all of you, I mean all of you, sailors, families, friends here and across the globe, Teresa and I owe you a debt of gratitude that we could never repay. We are humbled. We are grateful for all that you do, and thank you for joining us here today. CNO, Admiral Richardson, the friendship you and I have developed over this past year has been nothing short of amazing. I will never forget flying out to the Truman with you. I will never forget the G's that we pulled. I will never forget catching the wire, and I will never forget not losing our cookies, despite the fact that we really wanted to lose our cookies, but through sheer will and fear of embarrassment, we kept it together. The appreciation I have for you as a person and the leader of our Navy goes far beyond anything words could ever express. You are exactly the leader that our Navy needs today. CNO, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. I care for you as a person. I could have easily continued to serve with you for as many years as you would have me. However, I recognize that it wouldn't be fair to our Navy not to afford the next generations of Master Chief Petty Officers the same opportunity that I was given. And frankly, Teresa said, I've given you up for 4 years. You just come home to do laundry. I'm ready to have you back. So, honey, I'm coming home. Thank you for everything. I know our friendship will continue, and I look forward to talking with you in the future. Dana, Teresa, and I also wanted to thank you for everything that you've done, for your friendship, and for welcoming us into your family. Thank you so much, Dana. You and your family will always be in our prayers. Admiral Harvey and Mary Ellen. Notice how I said that? Teresa and I are so grateful to call you friends. From the first time we met in 2010, both of you have been by our sides. So, like it or not, we want you to know that you're stuck with us, because we've decided to make you lifelong friends. How do you feel about that? I know if we ever need you for something, you'll be there. And likewise, Teresa and I will be there for you. Now, the individual on this earth that has had the most influence on me as a leader and as a person is my wife. Teresa shows me every day what it means to be committed, selfless, and loving. She's been with me through thick and thin, sickness and health. She knows things about me that only a wife can know, but yet somehow she still has complete confidence and trust in me. Honey, thank you for all the times that you've told me I believe in you. Those 4 simple words have meant more to me than you will ever know. You and I have traveled this magnificent journey of service together, and after today, you, Bibu, and I will turn the page and begin a new and exciting chapter. Pittsburgher bus, baby. You're the best, honey. And I love you more than my own life. I will forever be grateful and humbled by the opportunity I was given to serve in the United States Navy. And then to be trusted to lead and advocate for America's greatest treasure, those that wear the cloth of our nation, and who have sworn to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I find technology interesting and necessary, but it is, and it always has been, our people, military, civilians, our families that make us the greatest Navy in the world. If we ever forget that, I am afraid that it will be our demise. I took the time each morning before I started my day to pray for the strength and the wisdom to serve you well, and reminded myself of the significance of the responsibility that I was given. To be mindful that our core values of honor, courage, and commitment are more than a slogan, is the common understanding of what guides our diverse Navy and what we hold dear. I've often been asked, what was your number one goal as you served as the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy? And my answer never changed. As leaders, we have a responsibility to establish and maintain the conditions that will provide all of our people with an opportunity to be successful. And we will do this while treating one another with dignity and respect. Now, I will admit that I did not always get it right, and I really made more than my fair share of mistakes. But I want you to know that I treated each day with the seriousness you must demand of your Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. Now, as leaders, we do not get to determine our success. We can only assume it. The right to determine success is reserved for our people and our people alone. And by them, history will either condemn or vindicate our actions. Now, it can only be my hope that one day the men and women I have served with will consider my service to our nation as honorable and worthy. I am a man who's received the gift of salvation, born in the greatest country in the world, married to the most wonderful woman in the world, and served in the United States Navy for more than 3 decades. Knowing that I deserve none of this, I must come to the conclusion that I am blessed. Tonight I will remove my uniform for the last time, and I will not wear it again until my eternal rest. But I do so with a smile on my face, knowing that I serve as a sailor in the greatest Navy the world has ever known. May God bless you. May God bless the United States, and may God bless the United States Navy.
Guests, please be seated. CNO and Fleet Master Chief Giordano, would you please join MCPON Stevens down center stage? The sailor's cutlass, a shorter, heavier weapon than the officer's sword, has for hundreds of years been an essential part of Navy arsenals. A rugged, utilitarian fighting tool, the cutlass was part of the ship's armory, racked and available to be taken up for drill or battle. The cutlass is now a ceremonial sidearm of the Navy Chief Petty Officer. As has been done 12 times between MCPONs in the past, MCPON Stevens passes this symbol of service and heritage to its new caretaker, to be displayed in the office of the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy as a constant reminder of his duty and purpose. Presenting the cutlass is Senior Chief Hospital Corpsman Nathan Gibbs of the United States Navy Ceremonial Guard, the commander of troops for today's ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, the 14th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, Stephen S. Giordano.
So, it's nice to be the last one to speak. Mike, you thanked just about everybody in the audience, so I'm going to go to page 3. No, I'm so honored to be standing before each and every one of you today. And if I look to my left here, there's a group of people in the first 3 rows. You all know you're here for a reason. You all matter to me in my life. Just like this Navy's mattered to me in my life for the last 27 years. I'm honored to have you here with me. Good morning to everybody else in attendance. CEO, Dana, Mike, Teresa, distinguished guests, family, friends, and shipmates, thank you all for being here. There's so many people that have had an impact on my life and my career, and I'm delighted to see so many of them here today. And I cannot truly place into words what each of you have meant to Elka, the girls, and I. But please know that you hold a place in our hearts. As it has been written, no one achieves anything alone. A leader achieves goals by working through other people, and are a product of his or her teachers, mentors, and other influences in their lives. If I may, I do want to take a moment to talk about the office of the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, the MCPON. Many MCPONs have left their mark and affected change throughout the Navy. The office itself is faceless. MCPON is the senior enlisted advisor to the Chief Naval Operations and an advocate for each and every sailor across the globe. As an enlisted sailor, MCPON has the ear of admirals, legislators, and influential civilians and their influential effects, and these influential effects have an impact on the career and lives of every sailor and their families. To those previous 13 Master Chief Petty Officers of Navy and their spouses, and in particular, Mrs. Ima Black, thank you. Mrs. Black, of course, is here, as she is for many events, on behalf of her late husband and our first Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, Del Black. But to all of you, I thank you for your dedicated service to our nation and our Navy. As extremely authentic, competent, and courageous leaders, you have established a legacy that, as Mike Stevens says today, lit the path for others to follow with boldness and toughness. As I commence this humbling journey as the 14th Master Chief Petty Officer of this great Navy, I guarantee you, CNO, and all our sailors and families, I'll continue to work hard every day in building upon those foundations. The Navy made a strong investment in us, as it does all our sailors, and I feel completely obligated to give everything I can in return. I know I may not get everything right, but I welcome challenges we all may face. Admiral, I am honored to be afforded this opportunity, and it is one I do not enter into lightly. The families, the friends, the shipmates who have mentored and guided me along the way at all points and stops in my career made me who and what I am today. I will continue to lean on that wisdom and knowledge, as well as the input and feedback from across this entire fleet. To our Navy family, the nearly 1,400, 1,437,000 active and reserve sailors and their families. Thank you for what you do every day. Excuse me. I'm gonna keep this one short, honey, okay? You know that you, Samantha and Elizabeth, I love you guys so much. You three are what keeps me strong every day. You honor me. Thank you. Now, with one foot smartly on the history and heritage of our service, and one foot stepping forward into the future, I look forward to serving this great Navy of ours as the 14th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, and all the reverence, respect, and action incumbent on this great office. Again, I am humbly honored. God bless each and every one of you, your families, our great United States Navy, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Guests, please rise for the benediction and the piping of the sigh and remain standing for the departure of the official party.
Will you pray with me? Now as the sailor's cutlass changes hands, grant MCPON Giordano the strength of mind, body, and spirit to wield this tool well. He himself an essential part of the Navy's arsenal. As he takes up this symbol of both leadership and service, enable him to grip firmly the responsibility for the welfare of our sailors and the keeping of our Navy. May he and Elke and their family together serve as models of reliability and fidelity to which you have called each of us. God, we pray that you would continue to bless this nation with strong, courageous, and dedicated leaders, men and women who, following the example of these whom we celebrate this day, will love and serve this great country with the same honor and distinction that they have displayed in their service. For it is by your grace that we have gathered, and it is in your name we pray. Amen.
Bosun, post the side boys. Band, sound off.
John Richardson, I request permission to go ashore for the last time.
On Mike Stevens, on behalf of the great Navy and a great mission, go ashore.
Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy and wife, retired, departing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending our ceremony today.